Today I want to talk about a topic that's had my interest for quite a while, and it's how human nature sort of underpins climate change and the reason why it's happening. I've made some notes. I've got a cup of tea. I'm just going to read through them in the hope that maybe I'll learn something, or maybe this information is useful in some ways. But I like the topic. So before you look at how human nature impacts or is the driver behind climate change, it's kind of important to look a step further back than this and actually look at evolution itself. Evolution was considered by Charles Darwin as a sort of ruthless struggle for survival. And crucially, when resources are available, a population will survive and they'll reproduce in a way that the population will sort of increase drastically or abundantly. And this is quite a founding principle to consider for sort of all species on life, but then particularly to humans. When you consider that not everywhere, but in much of the world, humans are being able to grow in a way where the population is continually increasing. Not everywhere, in some areas, resources are actually constraining population, and perhaps we'll see that more. But I'm going to take it as a wide rule that humans are being allowed to increase in their population due to the fact that we have been able to have an abundance of resources. The second thing to consider with evolution is that evolution actually favors short term survival benefits, even if they're detrimental in the long term. And this feeds directly into the first point about human nature, where in our ancestral brain, in our sort of caveman brain that we're quite strongly linked to, we're very much so based on a brain that senses immediate fears, desires, and needs. And the idea of climate change is completely opposite to this. Climate change is, well, maybe not anymore, but was a long way down the road. It was something that was slow and difficult to actually comprehend. So, because we're wired to prioritize our immediate rewards over long term consequences, it makes complete sense that why we've got to the place that we're in. It's difficult to address a sort of gradual long term problem and the gradual long term nature of climate change. So, in our system, we prioritize our immediate gains, our immediate economic gains, or even immediate consumption of materials over the idea of these sort of future losses. This concept actually underpins climate inaction, the idea that your immediate fears and concerns are so much more important than the idea of a sort of almost existential crisis of the planet no longer surviving or humans being faced with extinction. That isn't really something that we can comprehend when our brain is so used to our sort of immediate desires in the particular moment and environment that we're living in the present in some ways. The second thing is that our ancestral desires to accumulate and expand territory, which were once crucial to our survival, now fuels our overconsumption and our sort of unsustainable economic growth. So this isn't great because we're now reliant on economic growth in a finite world that has a fragile ecology. And this means that we're basically driving the planet to its limits based on our sort of continual consumption and need to acquire, or our continual sort of ideal favor for growth in a finite world that has a limited amount of resources. We have a bad system in we have a sort of growth system that is underpinned by a foundation of growth in a finite world. So it's quite an obvious problem in that sense why we're having the ecological and climatic issues that we have. So to speak more a little bit about this economic system we're in, we're driven by growth, and the growth of the society is reliant on our consumption, our sort of human nature to consume things and have new things. So, our human nature that is driven by accumulation and expansion has created an economic system that is fueled by consumerism and our desire for new things, especially in a sort of Western centric world. And interestingly, we have so much abundant material wealth, like unimaginably so. And this is a whole nother video, but in consideration, does that abundant wealth sort of add much happiness to our life? Does it really improve our perceived quality of our life. And I think really interestingly now, again, probably another topic, is it actually undermining our quality of life? Let's think about social media. Let's think about food sources. Let's think about a lot of other things that now we have so much of them, actually undermining our well-being. So our material wealth and our world and system that has been driven by more and more and more and more is now undermining the thing that it's meant to improve, if that makes sense. And another thing is that because companies are required to uphold profits, they're always in a race to deliver new things, meet the customer need, drive more incentive to buy and acquire, and have new adverts that are gonna send people in order to consume things because they're reliant on profits. Otherwise, they wouldn't exist. Otherwise, their business would fail. Then again, you're sustaining the consuming and the growth of new things. You're developing new products that new people want. You're putting out an iPhone 16 or whatever. And I'm not trying to say all of this to say that we're all horrible and we're all doing something wrong. I'm just saying this to understand the situation because this is importantly, I think in my view, a quite important topic to understand because instead of thinking, oh, well, climate change is caused by short and long term wavelength radiation that warms our atmosphere, you're actually getting to see the sort of inherent drivers of it on a human perspective. And I hope another topic to do or to cover is that I hope that once we understand, or once I understand these drivers and the human nature behind the world we're in right now, you'll be able to better tailor solutions. You'll be able to better communicate with people in a way that you take into consideration of their sort of present bias of immediate needs rather than long-term consideration, or develop solutions that actually address that sort of continual drive for profits in a way that's driving consumerism instead of adding benefit to the planet. So I hope that by understanding this, we have a better toolkit and a better toolbox to enact positive change and to combat these issues. Maybe I'll do that research for another video, but that's about it. So have a great one.